Well, there's breaking news this afternoon on a big lawsuit facing big labor. Sodexo USA is one of the largest food service companies in the world. It is now accusing the SEIU, or the Service Employees International Union, which is one of the biggest unions in this country, of trying to infiltrate its workforce, Sodexo's, which is mostly non-union, with some very dirty tactics, including, it claims, by trying to extort the company. It says that SEIU did things like throw plastic cockroaches into food Sodexo workers were serving at high-profile functions, trying to underscore the need to have this company unionized once and for all. Now, Sodexo is finally firing a shot across the bow, filing a major lawsuit under the RICO Act, which is typically reserved for prosecuting mobsters and drug lords. They say the union is trying to extort them. Joining me now, Leslie Marshall, a syndicated radio talk show host, and Lars Larson, a syndicated radio talk show host as well. All right, panel, so reading this complaint will turn your stomach. Among other things, they claim, I told you about the plastic roaches they claim SEIU threw onto their food. They say that this is all they say in an effort to try to encourage Sodexo to consider unionizing with SEIU. They try to instill fear and disgust in hospital patients by passing out patient surveys without a shred of factual justification, asking whether the patients have encountered bugs, rat droppings, mold, or flies in the food that the workers are serving, and then falsely claim at another company that food production plants have rodent problems and that Sodexo's unsanitary food prep has led to an infestation of maggots in a California hospital. And Lars, this company says it's had enough, that if they want to try to unionize, go to our workers, do what you're going to do, but we're not going to be extorted by tactics like this. Of course, they're all just allegations.
Gee, thuggish behavior by unions. What a big surprise. You could have pushed me over with a feather. As a reporter 30 years ago, I covered my first long strike. It was teachers. They engaged in some of the most thuggish behavior you've ever seen. The same kind of vandalism, name-calling, and everything else. And today, 30 years later, the unions are desperate. Their president hasn't delivered on card check. Thank God. And the fact is they're down to one of the lowest levels of union membership outside of government, of course. In the private sector, what is it, below 7% now? And Sodexo has almost 15% of its workforce unionized, so they're already one of the more unionized private companies, but the unions are desperate, and SEIU in particular. It sounds like they want to push the other unions out, and they're now starting to battle each other. Thank God this company has the guts to go after them with RICO. This does sound like a mob-run operation, SEIU.
Leslie, these are just allegations. They just, you can say what you want in a complaint. You're supposed to do it in good faith to comply with the ethics rules and so on. But and by the way, the SEIU has come out calling this a bogus litigation, and they say, look, collective bargaining and union representation are under attack in the United States. But if this company can prove that SEIU did these things, it's not going to help the SEIU's cause with the public.
I don't think they're going to be able to prove it, Megan. I mean, Lars, to your remark about the teachers, oh, those teachers, those thugs, they're just like John Gotti, for crying out loud. Why don't you guys go out and try and find Jimmy Hoffa and link that to the unions? This is absolutely ridiculous. Handing out a survey, if in fact they did, is not racketeering. I mean,
what about throwing false cockroaches on people's food?
What about
this is an allegation. This is an allegation. Innocent till proven guilty. Either way, innocent till proven guilty.
Not
I don't buy it. I'm with the unions on this. I do not buy it.
Well, let me ask you this, Lars. Is there reason to question the SEIU's tactics, even if, let's say, all of the things I just read are false, right? That the company Sodexo is not going to be able to prove it. What we do know about the SEIU is they do sometimes get, in your face when they're trying to make their point. Remember when they went to the home of the Bank of America executive right next to Nina Easton and stormed the guy's home with his young child inside? We've got, there's the video of that right there. Then just this week, it broke that they went to some bank in the Poconos to try to storm that bank and get in some manager's face, not because of any bank policies, because of, I don't know, apparently the assistant manager supported some cause outside of the bank that they didn't agree with. Here they are doing that. And then there was an incident where Andy Stern, who was then head of it, and Danny Glover got arrested for their protests in behalf of the SEIU. So my question is, separate and outside of these allegations, is there reason to believe this group may be out of control?
Yes, I believe it is. Look, Megan, they don't call them the purple people beaters for nothing. The fact is that most unions will engage in this kind of behavior, and it's not that they're under attack, as Leslie says. They're unpopular. 93% of private workers in America who have every right to unionize under federal law, and the laws are very strong in favor of union organization, have chosen not to be represented by these creeps. And the fact is that even most of the people in government employment do not want to be represented by the unions, and the unions are growing increasingly desperate. They don't have a way to force people into unions, so they have to resort to these kind of tactics. Leslie, you have to acknowledge these unions are doing this out of desperation. They're losing their popular appeal.
What about those other tactics, Leslie? There's some of those videos I just showed.
Well, the videos that I saw, Megan, with all due respect, I saw protesters, and if the First Amendment is in line with RICO, that I would agree is going too far. But one action does not dictate every single union or this union and every single member.
It's not one.
The videos that I'm seeing there, those are peaceful protests. I don't see any violence, and they are exercising the First Amendment right. I don't find that in line with the RICO Act, racketeering, or extortion.
What about that, Lars?
That
is an act that's normally reserved for mobsters. I mean, you know, is this company reaching a bit and trying to equate the SEIU?
No.
You may not like their tactics, but, you know, trying to compare them to the mob, basically.
Exactly.
I got to tell you something. Here's what's going on here. There's First Amendment free speech, and Megan, as a lawyer, you know there's a point where my free speech can become so threatening and so intimidating that it constitutes a crime.
It's happened on this show.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure it has.
I met with you.
I mean, well, of course. But here's the danger. The danger is that apparently Leslie didn't see all the coverage in Wisconsin, where state lawmakers found themselves with people in their face screaming, cursing, and doing things that were physically threatening. That kind of activity is the kind of criminal activity I'm talking about. I think the RICO statute is perfectly appropriate when you have a large organization funded with millions of dollars that's designed to that goes out and intends to intimidate people into allowing them to unionize the workers. That should be treated under RICO.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Because, you know, I have to say, we got to go. But in the SEIU's defense, a lot of companies don't want to be unionized, and they don't like unions pressing them or doing things to try to push it, and they will fight back, sometimes even with litigation. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out in the courts. Leslie and Lars, thank you both.